In the second part of Chapter 5, we will continue introducing taxes and dimensioning functions. Basically, we will introduce more advanced dimensioning functions and the generation of tables in AutoCAD. Before we go to the introduction of advanced dimensioning functions, we have to know how to change the styles of the dimension, especially if we want to display the dimensions appropriately for the current drawing. The command for you to change the style is a dim style, and with this command you can define the dimension styles or change the current style. Basically, you can modify the properties of the text, dimension lines, and extension line for the existing dimensions. In this demonstration, we will check how to modify the property of the dimensions. Actually, in the drawing here, you can see that the texts of the dimension is very small and it's not easy for you to check the values of the two horizontal distance. So we have to make the texts larger. To complete this operation, we need to call the dim style command, and it will pop out the Dimension Style Manager window. Under this window, you can generate a new style, and also you can modify the current style. For example, here we want to modify the standard style, so you can click the modify option, and then it will pop out the modify dimension style window. At the first option lines, you can modify the property of the dimension lines and extension lines. Actually, for one dimension, it has three components: the dimension text, which would be the values here; the dimension lines, which would be the two lines with arrowheads; and extension lines, which would be the two parallel lines here. For the dimension lines, you can change the line color, the line type, and also the line weight. And also you can determine whether you want to remove one dimension line from your drawing. Similarly, for the extension line, you can modify the color, the line type for the extension line 1, extension line 2, the line weight, and also you can determine whether you want to remove one of them from the drawing. The second option is the symbols and rows. In this option, you can modify the property of the arrowheads for the dimension lines. You can change the arrowheads for both dimension lines, for the first one and the second one, based on the types you have in this list. And also you can change the size of the arrowheads. Similarly, you can modify the center marks. If you have the circles or the arcs, you probably want to mark the centers. You can determine whether you want to mark it or use the crossing to mark the center, or you can use lines to mark the center. Similarly, you can modify the size of those marks. The third option is text, which is very important for us to modify for the current drawing. You can change the text style and text color, and also you can change the field color. The next thing is the text height, which will be applied for you to define the font size of the text. And in our drawing, we want to make the text larger, so we need to specify a larger value. Say the value is 1 unit. And also, you will have the text placement. You can determine where you want to place the text, about the dimension line, or outside the dimension line, or below the dimension line, all those options. And you also can determine how you want to place the text horizontally at the extension line 1, at extension line 2, or over the extension line 2, all those options. And also you can determine the view direction. For example, if we want to view it from the left, generally we want to view it from left to right, you also can change it from the right to left. And the other option would be the text alignment. Usually we place them horizontally, and also you can place the text, align the text with the dimension line, so that you will have the same direction to the dimension line. The next option would be the fit. This option is applied for you to decide how you want to place the text if there isn't any enough space for you to place the text and the dimension line between the extension lines. Usually we will just choose either text or the arrow outside of the extension line. And you can customize all these different options by yourself. The next option is the primary units. This one is applied for you to decide the format of the values and the units. So generally we are choosing the unit format as decimal. You can also modify them to the other format like engineer, agriculture. You can check the differences of all these values. And also you can determine the precision, like here if we just want to keep one digit after the point, we can choose this option. And that's the primary units. You can also modify the unit format for the angles. The setting will be similar to the linear dimensions. That's the primary units. You can also add an alternative units. This one will get one more explanation about the units in their current dimension. The setting will be quite similar to the primary units. The last option is tolerance. Sometimes if you think that the distance you measured has some errors there, you can decide what kind of tolerance you want to place for the current dimension. You can use the symmetrical, deviation, limits, and the basic options. With all those options, you can decide the tolerance for the current units. So now here we don't want to choose any tolerance for that one, and we remove the alternative units, and then let's complete the setting of the dimension style and see what we will have here. Here we will see that the size of the dimension is large enough for you to observe all the values. The first line segment will have the horizontal distance of 5.6 and the second one is 5.2. Now let's check some advanced dimensioning functions. The first one is a continue dimensioning. The command is a dim continue. This command is applied for us to add a string of the dimensions. So with this command we can add multiple dimensions of one series of line segments at one time. The second one is a radius. The command is a dim radius and it will be applied for us to define the radius of the circle or the arc. The third one is a diameter. The command is a dim diameter. It's applied to define the diameter of the circle on the arc. And the last one is mark centers. The command is a dim center. And this command is only applied to mark the center of the arc on the circle with the cross. In the next slides, I'm going to show you one demonstration about how to use these 4 dimensioning functions. First, for the continue dimensioning functions, we need to type the command dim continue. And for this command, you must have one linear dimension in your current joining. And at the first step, you must select this linear dimension. At the next, you can just choose the endpoints of the rest line segments, and then you will have all these line segments marked with the dimensions. So the advantage of this function is that it can help you to mark multiple lines at the same time. The second function is a radius dimension. You can go to the toolbar and select the radius dimension, or you can just type the dim radius under the command window. With this command, you can click the circle you want to mark, and then you will get the radius of the circle. The third one is the diameter dimension. The operation is similar to the radius dimension. Choose the dim diameter and select the arc. Then you will have the diameter of this arc. The last one is a center mark. With this one, you have to use the dim center. And then choose the arc or the circle. Here I'm choosing this arc. Now the center of this arc will be marked with this cross. So that's the operation of the 4 advanced dimensioning function. Here we will still have 2 more dimensioning functions. The first one, dim arc, is applied for us to measure the length of the arc. The second one, dim ordinate, is applied for us to measure the coordinates, including x and y coordinates of one point. In the next slides, I will show you how to use these 2 functions. First, to measure the length of the arc, you need to call the command dim arc, or you can go to the toolbar and choose the arc length here. And then you just need to select the arc segments or the arc segment under the polyline. And now you will have the length of the arc, which is about 26.8 here. The second one is the coordinates of one point. You can either go to the toolbar, choose the ordinates here, or type the command dim ordinate. And then you can specify the y coordinates, which is 17.8, or the x coordinate, which is 16.0 here. So that's the operation of the arc and coordinates in AutoCAD. AutoCAD also provided 2 advanced dimensioning functions to generate multiple dimensions at the same time. The first function is a baseline dimension. The command is a dim baseline or dim base. This command can generate a series of dimensions from a single base point at the same time. And usually the base point is chosen from the previous or the selected dimension. The second command is called a quick dimensioning. The command is qdim, and this command can generate multiple dimensions at the same time based on the selection of the object. In the next slides, we will go through these 2 dimensioning functions. Now let's check the baseline dimensioning function. In this picture, if we want to find out the horizontal distance from the other endpoints of the polyline to the origin here, then the best method is using the baseline dimension. To apply this function, we have to call the command dim base or dim baseline. Then you need to specify the base point. Here we have to choose this one as the base point, and then you just need to specify the other endpoints of the polyline. And at the last, you will get the horizontal distance from the other endpoints to the origin. So that's the operation of the baseline dimension. The second one, quick dimensioning, it's very simple. You can use the command qdim, and then you just need to specify the object you want to mark the dimension. And then click enter. You can put the horizontal distance of all the line segments at one operation. So you will get the 4 segments for this polyline. So that's the application of the baseline dimensioning and quick dimensioning. In this example, we will give the dimensions to the figure that we assigned in class number 3. And for the dimensions here, you can see that all the texts are placed above the dimension line. And for the center of the circle, it will have both cross and the lines. So we have to modify those properties to satisfy the requirements of these dimensions. To complete the dimension in this example, we have to first modify the properties of the dimension. To complete this modification, we need to call the command dim style, and then we will modify the style of the standard. So we go to the modify, and first for the modification of the dimension style, we go to the lines option and choose the extension line and set the extended beyond dimension lines as 1 unit here. And for the symbol and the rows, we will define the arrow size as 2 units. For the text, here we have to specify the text height as 3 units, and also we need to place the text above the dimension line, and also for the alignments of the text, it will be aligned with the dimension line. For the primary units, we will choose the value 0 for the precision, and that's all about the setting of the dimension style. And now we can add the dimensions for the figure. So first we will call the quick dimension function, and then choose the objects we want to set for the quick dimension. That would be the 3 vertical lines here. Click enter. You can add a quick dimension for all these 3 segments. And then for the diameter of the circle, choose the diameter dimension and define this one, and put the dimension at an appropriate location. You will complete the dimension of the diameter. And for these 2 angles, choose the angular dimension, select the directions, for the 130 degree, and for the rest dimension we just use the linear dimension. For the distance between these 2 circles, the distance of these 2 corners, and the length of this line segment, also the dimension of the rectangle, and the distance from the bottom of the rectangle to the bottom of the figure, and the length of these line segments, and all the rest 3 distance. And that's all for you to complete the dimension of this whole figure. In the rest of this lecture, we are talking about how to generate the tables in AutoCAD. The command is just a table. Under this command, you can specify the table style. Usually we are using the standard style. And in this style, you can specify the first row as the title of the table, and the second row as the header, which will be the names of each column, and all the rest rows will be the cell region. Also, you can specify the number of the columns you want to define for that table and the width of each column. And for the data rows, you can identify the number of the data rows and the height of each row. Once you complete all the settings, you can just click OK to complete the definition of a new table. As we stated earlier, we can choose different types of the style for the table. And actually, we can define the new styles by ourselves. The command is table style. Once you type this command under the command window, it will pop out a small window to ask you whether you want to generate a new table style or modify an existing style. If you click modify, you can go to the window here. Under this window, you can modify the style of the standard table. And here, for the table direction, if you choose down, then you will put the title and the header on the top of the table. If you choose up, you will put the title and the header at the bottom of the table. And for the right region here, you can specify the cell styles. Like for the data, you can specify the colors, the alignments, and also what kind of information you can place for the text. And also you can specify the border information. At the same time, you can apply the similar settings for the header and the title. Actually, all these settings are exactly the same to the tables in Word documents. In order to edit table, you have to call the command table edit. With this command, you can edit title, header, and data of the entire table. and you can also merge and divide cells to customize the table. In the second example, I will give you a brief instruction about the generation of this kind of table in AutoCAD. In the second example, I will give you a brief instruction about the generation of this kind of table in AutoCAD. This is the end of chapter 5. In this chapter, we learn how to insert text, dimensions, and tables in AutoCAD. Actually, here we've already completed all the fundamental two-dimensional joining skills. You can go back to do more practice about the commands we learned in all the previous lectures.